Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning sesh where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures, uncovering those meanings glossed over by translations and traditions, really cutting to the core of the metaphysical aspects of these ancient texts and applying them practically to situations in our present day so that we can step up and live the life that we were called to live and manifest Earth 2.0. And today I'm going to be talking about some of the symbolism that I discussed in a previous live session about the book of Jonah.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I begin, I gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more, and stay tuned as we accelerate past this threshold. We are literally manifesting that utopia we know we are deserving of. But with that being said, I'm just going to jump right into it. In the last chapter of the book, we read this story about how he's all upset that Yahweh didn't destroy Nineveh, and he goes off to sulk. And meanwhile, while he's watching the city just in hopes that, some kind of destruction's going to come upon it, a gourd just sprouts out of the ground to shelter him from the sun. And he's pretty thankful for that. But right after that, the next day, a worm comes and eats the gourd so that it just withers up and blows away. And then a hot east wind comes and he just wants to die, basically. And I read this and the symbolism just kind of leapt off the page at me. So I'm going to be sharing that today. We start with talking about this gourd. Now, the word that's used here in Hebrew is kikayon, which doesn't appear anywhere else in the text. And people have argued, well, is this a gourd or is it a vine? Because it says that he built a booth to actually sit in and watch whatever destruction might come. But this plant has been tied into actually the castor bean, whose name is literally Palma Christi. The name Palma Christi comes from the way the leaf is shaped, kind of like an outstretched hand. And we're going to get to that because all of these symbols are actually types and shadows of Christ himself. And these plants, while they can sprout up really quickly, if anything comes against it, it can actually wither up really quickly as well and just be blown away by the wind. Now, after the tree came up, it's destroyed by this worm. And the word for worm is tolarat. And that worm itself is actually used as a crimson dye. And it's very interesting that it's a crimson dye because that, of course, typifies the blood of Christ. In the tabernacle, to make all of the curtains and all of the clothes and all of that stuff, that dye is actually that same dye of this red worm. And even in the 22nd Psalm, where it's talking about literally Yeshua becoming that sacrifice, he says, but I am a worm, that same word, and no man, a reproach of men and despised of the people. And even elsewhere it says that his appearance was so marred that they couldn't recognize whether he was a man or a beast. So when we're talking about that vine that sprouts up, the kikayon, it's actually like a symbol of resurrection, of regeneration. But that worm is also that symbol of sacrifice. So all of this stuff points to the very symbol of Christ. And then we see that a vehement east wind came. And of course, the east wind was that desert wind. It was hot and dry. And not just that, but the east signifies the rising of the sun. It's another type of that resurrection of Christ. And of course, that hot sun that was shining down on him is also a type and shadow of Christ. And even the sign of Jonah is a type of Christ because he answered the Pharisees when they asked him for a sign. He said, it's an evil and adulterous generation that seeks after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And so all of these shadows actually point to that symbol of that not only came up and just sprouted forth as a man with all that life power to literally heal the sick, but then to literally become a grub, a worm, like that detestable caterpillar that was actually crushed and used as that red dye of a symbol of that blood, even in the Hebrew tabernacle. So all of these things tie together, and when you really expand on the deeper meanings of the scriptures, man, they just come alive like never before. And so I just thought I'd share that today. This reasoning sesh was a little bit different, but I know there's so much and I'm just covering it all. Whatever source reveals to me, I'm sharing with you guys because I know you guys are able to handle it. We're already moving forward. And as we do, more and more of these deeper meanings will be unveiled to each of us. So I love you guys. I'll check you in another reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom. And meanwhile, while he's watching the city, was also a typification